This meeting is being recorded. And what does that mean? You will have less rate shopping. You'll be able to capture that borrower because you're providing value and you're building trust through a different type of conversation. You'll also increase your referral opportunities by uncovering opportunity out of your past client database. Mortgage Coach, we believe in having annual mortgage reviews or periodic conversations with your past clients to help uncover what new things are going on in their life. What changes financially? Did they come out of the pandemic more in debt or did they save more, which opens up opportunity for new home ownership, whether it's in the form of downsizing, upsizing, investment properties, home equity, but uncovering new opportunities. And when you uncover that new opportunity and you can walk into a realtor's place of business and present them a new purchase opportunity that's been pre-qualified, that's golden. And then finally, you'll protect your margin and profitability. That's the conversation of the day, right? Margin compression, margin compression. How do you preserve that? Because as we know, every basis point is going to matter going into the next year or two. And you will see with Mortgage Coach that you have far fewer price exceptions, and you'll also be able to sell those products that sometimes are harder to sell, have higher profit margins. So what does that mean to people that manage P&Ls? Your production looks better.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop you for 1 second. If everybody could just pay attention to whether or not they're muted, the feedback actually is pretty awful because a whole slew of you you don't have yourself muted. So can you please click the mute button?
All right. So as I was just saying, anybody that's responsible for a P&L in your organization, it means more consistent, predictable pipeline, which helps to ensure your production profitability. For a loan originator that's on the call today, what does that mean to you? It means your ability to close more loans more often, and that means commission at the end of the day, right? All right, so as we move along, this is a little bit about Mortgage Coach, and we'll jump into this. So the first thing that you'll see here is your personal branding. Everybody wants to get their branding out there. And just as importantly, because you work for Homestead, they want you to be promoting that wonderful brand that you work for. And then in the middle, you'll see options. So if you just broke down any one of those columns, that might be a fee worksheet. But when you present it in this way, you have options that are presented together in a very meaningful, illustrative way to help highlight the difference between these options that probably fit that borrower's profile, because you've had that hopes and dreams and goals conversation to put together options that will help them achieve their goals. We have an integration called experience.com where you can actually put borrower reviews right within the TCA. And then if you look in the upper right-hand corner of my screen, you'll see an area where it says alerts and views. That is a Mortgage Coach superpower, because every time a borrower or a realtor, if you share this with your realtor partner, every time they open this presentation, they're engaged. And that is your cue, because you are going to get, your phone's going to be buzzing to let you know that something's happened. So you'll know that a borrower is engaged with the presentation, or you'll get an email through your email client of choice. Or if you're working in the Mortgage Coach advice engine, you'll see a change in the alerts and views. And that is just your call to action. Knock on the door, pick up the phone, take action. And then one of the most powerful things about Mortgage Coach are the graphs, the illustrative graphs, because you can see all the data, and there are people that love the data. I just love graphs and charts because I can make sense of the things that they're trying to convey to me. So this is a rent versus and you can see here the difference in the net monthly payments if you're renting at the top versus options for home ownership, where in this case, every one of those options is lower than the monthly payment that they're making in rent. And then you'll see, you can look at the Mortgage Coach data from a lot of different benchmarks, marches, I'm sorry. This one is tax benefit. You can also look at equity built or debt reduced, but the graphs illustrate in a way that's meaningful to the borrower based upon what they're trying to achieve. And then finally, personal video. I can't speak enough about the power of video in today's world. It is your way to add narrative, color, let that borrower see your personality, and then follow the borrower after you've had their presentation, right? Because a lot of times they may not get it through that Zoom meeting or that phone call or however you presented it. But when they go home and they're sitting on their sofa in their evening with their significant other, you've got your video right here helping to drive home points that are important to making a decision. And then, oh, by the way, I'll talk more about this yellow highlighting that you see on the screen that also draws attention while you're driving a live mortgage coach experience. Okay, so just a few more things, and then I'll jump into mortgage coach. As I mentioned, anytime, anywhere, any device. If you're meeting in an office, sit down across from that borrower, but when they leave your office, they're going to have this presentation that follows them on a digital device or on their website. Or else it's self-serve, right? This is a sitting in a coffee shop. You delivered an update to her. She immediately got to see what updates were made. And again, it's real time on anywhere, on any device. But these are the three fundamentals as we walk through our day, that you should present loan options. There probably isn't a consumer decision in your life that you make that you don't look at options. Whether it's on buying a new car, for me, it's evaluating my next new running shoe, or when you go to a restaurant, right? We want options. We just don't want too many options, right? Because that confuses us. And then we should look at cost over time. A mortgage transaction is going to be with that family for a long time, or in the case of maybe a veteran or a family that knows that they're only going to be in their first time home, maybe 3 to 5 years until they start to have a family. It doesn't make sense to necessarily always lead with that 30-year option, right? And especially now that interest rates are rising, we have the reemergence of ARMs, we have reemergence of non-QM products, and you can illustrate any of these options with Mortgage Coach that you can't really draw to life on a piece of paper in a closing cost estimate. And then finally, the last area is where you really transform the conversation. With Mortgage Coach, you can show the borrower options for how to build wealth faster or reduce debt faster. So things like debt consolidation, or let's say you're doing a refinance transaction or moving a renter to a home and you're saving them $500 a month, and you say, take 250 of that and have yourself a good time and spend it on your wardrobe, but take the other half of that and put it into some type of interest-bearing account, and you'll be able to illustrate how they can grow equity or they can grow wealth over time. That's where you now become that trusted advisor and that person that they'll look to for every financial decision that they'll make for every home going forward. All right, I'm going to stop. Well, I just have one more thing. These are the illustrations, or what we call loan strategies, that you can do. So there isn't a thing that you can't illustrate to a borrower that you can't somehow make it come to life in a very visual way for a family based upon their financial profile and their lifestyle goals and dreams. And then, oh, by the way, Mortgage Coach is not just to be used during the origination process, but as we move into this new purchase market environment where you're looking to uncover opportunities, whether it's using your CRM to send out first-time home buyer campaigns, and you add an example total cost analysis right within that beautiful glossy that you might have of a family, young family, getting keys to a home, first-time home buyer. What if you could also show them an example of how they can get away from thinking they have to have 20% down to afford that home, to actually just illustrating, here's a purchase price example. Here are options with 3% down, 5% down, or 20% down. This is how you can afford your first home. And this is how you can build equity through home ownership. And then once that loan closes, as I mentioned, the ability to focus on that client for life conversation where you go back and you do a wealth check, kind of like a health check, and you revisit the borrower and you ask them, what's changed in your life? Oh, you have a child going off to college. How are you going to fund that debt? or, oh, now you're burdened with all that college debt and you want to pay it off because it's limiting your ability to move up to your next home. Those are all things that you can accomplish with Mortgage Coach. All right, I'm going to stop my PowerPoint real quick and ask what questions that you have before we actually get into the technology. Any questions? Come on, you guys were vocal before.
Donna, you may have said this and I just missed it, but regarding the video that gets sent along with the presentation for anyone who might be camera shy, if you want to speak to that a little bit, that would be
Sure,
great.
Absolutely. So while we strongly encourage the use of video, I mean, face it, at the end of the day, if you're on a Zoom, right? Well, I guess you can turn your camera off. But if you meet a borrower, they see you. I know people still are camera shy, but you have the ability to do audio only. So while it's, in my opinion, not the best, it's an absolute must to let your knowledge and your expertise go wherever the borrower is. And then one other thing that I would say, I mentioned that views and alerts, another best practice that you would want to, just offer to your borrowers is that they are absolutely free to share the presentation with family and friends, right? Maybe mom and dad are paying a down payment for a gift fund for down payment, or maybe they have a friend and that friend says, do you know a loan originator that I could work with? And you've just done a fantastic experience. They can share the presentation. And what happens? That means that your brand, your company brand, is being passed from family to family to family, and it doesn't cost you a dime. All right.
And Dawn, the other thing, there's a question in the chat. What is the time investment per transaction to put this together, which you'll probably get to? And then, not to steal any thunder, but just wanted to make sure, since we have the Sales Boomerang as one of our tools, and I know that you all integrate with them, that may be something to, bring up as well.
All right, fantastic. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and I'm going to start with, let's see if I've got myself still online here. You'll bear with me 1 second. My connection to my computer went dead. All right, so you also have implemented something called, Sales Boomerang, correct? I mean, Simple Nexus. Where is my Simple Nexus?
Yes.
Oh, no. Where is Simple Nexus? Hold on. Oh my gosh, where did I put that? Well, this is the very beginning of the process, Simple Nexus, and for the life of me, oh, there we go. Okay. When you share, first of all, Danielle, does everyone use Simple Nexus?
Yes.
Okay. So when you guys share Simple Nexus with your borrower, the borrower has the ability to start an application, right? As the borrower is completing that application, what is happening is that Mortgage Coach is being fed the information that the borrower is entering. So you'll notice here, there is something called this Mortgage Coach analysis that sits right within the borrower's instance of your version of Simple Nexus. So when the presentation is being built and you control when it's going to be delivered to the borrower can receive it while they're entering data, or you can wait until they've completed the application, where you go into your Simple Nexus user interface and you build out the products that you want to put, and then the borrower simply clicks the presentation and they have the analysis right on their phone. So when you talk about speed to lead and getting there before a competitor can get there, this is probably as fast as you can get. So that's the first point of integration and things that you might want to look at as you move into this digital age and delivering a whole new experience to your borrowers. So I'm going to put this off to the side a moment. Any questions about Simple Nexus? All right, so let's go on to the next point of integration. I'm sure every one of you probably uses Optimal Blue. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to log in to Optimal Blue. This is another point of integration that we have, all again in the spirit to help you move as fast as possible to be efficient in what you do and how you do it. So in this case, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to grab, let's see, let me grab somebody out of my pipeline. And I have filled out all of the requisite data that is required to successfully do a mortgage or an Optimal Blue product and pricing results. So when I get to the product and pricing screen, I have the ability to pick up out 4 to 5 options. And you can see here the difference that you experience in Optimal Blue versus what the mortgage coach integration at Homestead would look like is that we have a column here. And you can select up to 4 or 5 options. I can even, if I wanted to drill into something that was below or above par with discount points or rebates, I could actually select one of those options as well. So let me go ahead and do that. So you can see, let's say, I'll just pick something here. And then I click the Mortgage Coach button that sits right within this UI. What's happening is Mortgage Coach and Optimal Blue are talking, and I have the ability to take a look at this information and say, you know what, they don't know what this Fannie Mae Home Ready is. So I'm just going to say, this is an ARM product. I want to make this user friendly again, because our borrowers are not familiar with all of the nomenclature that we have in our industry. So I make this user friendly, and then I click launch Mortgage Coach. And now all of this data that you would normally have to either write out or type on a spreadsheet or put into Excel or create 4 different closing cost worksheets, that all gets sent to Mortgage Coach. Here's what Daniela was referring to when now I have the opportunity that I could add video to my presentation. I can add video at any point in time, and I could actually trigger the camera on my phone because this camera is typically a little bit better than my web browser, or I could do audio only. So for those of you that don't want to be on video, add that audio narration, make it your own, provide your expert advice. I'm not going to do that right at the moment. Let me get this guy out of here a second. Okay, so this is the experience, right? I've got my branding, I've got my detail, I've got my breakdown, but I also have further detail that I can drop into, because what are some of the questions that your borrower has? Well, what makes up that payment? The guy down the street quoted me this is different. Or, you know what? The guy down the street, he suggested that my closing costs would be much lower than yours. So I can actually drill into the closing costs, get through the detail, and then drive into each one of the line items that makes up all of the closing costs that go along with that particular transaction. And I can do that for each one of these different products. Another thing that you'll see, yes, I had a video down here. This would be where the video or the audio is. And then I have the charts and graphs over here. But what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to share this presentation with you just like you would with a borrower. While I'm here, you also have the ability to print the presentation. So if I wanted to print it, I could check the areas that I want to have print. I could submit it for print. And now this is what the presentation would look like, whoops, in PDF form, all right? So you still have, for that borrower that wants a piece of paper, you still have the option to print it in PDF and share it. But let me go back to where I was. All right, so now, let me grab the presentation again. Hold on just a second. Okay, so now that I'm back into a presentation mode, so I put together this presentation for you. And as I mentioned, I want to share it. So I'm the LO, you're the LO, you've been working on this. As I said, you can print it, but most importantly, now what we want to do is you want to share it with your borrower. This is the link that ties you for perpetuity, if you want, to your borrower. So I'm going to simply cut and paste this link, and I'm going to drop it into our chat. So if you can go to your chat in Zoom, you'll be able to walk along with me like you would driving a borrower through the presentation.
Oh,
And
Dawn, I'll just throw in there, you may need to do that on your phone. Yeah, because the link is blocked because of our fire safety. So we have to unblock that. And I did not think of that prior to this presentation today. So if I will email it to everyone. Well, no, can't really do that very quickly. Okay, so you should type it into your browser on your phone. You can give everybody a second to do that because your phone won't be blocked.
okay, that's right. Otherwise, I can just bring up the borrower version on my web or on my phone, either way.
You may want to do that simultaneously just in case someone's unable to get it in there. It's a pretty short link to type in though, everyone, if you get an opportunity to do it. I think it's pretty interesting to see it in real time on your own phone.
It's out of here. Oh, I wanted to bring that up on. All right, do we have any, we've had several people that have been able to get in there. But I should have put this in a new browser, darn it. Okay, so we've got about 8 people. We should be able to do it from here. So one of the first things that happens when a presentation is opened by a borrower is what you see right here on my screen. So I'm in a different tab on my browser. I sent this to myself, and the first thing that you see is you get to click disclosures. When we have an enterprise relationship with Homestead, we build out all of this stuff so that you don't have to worry about it. We work with your compliance team, with Daniela, and we get out all of your compliance language in place. You'll also notice that you have the option of sharing this presentation in Spanish. So the presentation has been fully translated into Spanish. There is no doubt that one of the largest growing segments of homeowner potential in the United States is the Latino marketplace. And so it is available in Spanish, but let me go back to English. And I'm going to accept the disclosures. And right off the bat, it's letting the borrower know this is not a loan estimate, right? And we don't want to get into the situation where this looks like a loan estimate. But I'm going to go back to my view of the presentation. All right, so I'm the loan originator. I've shared the presentation, and now I want to walk through the presentation. Yes, I have a video on it, but I want to walk through this. So what I'm showing here today, Mr. Borrower, is that today you have a monthly rent payment of $1,400. With the options that I put together, you can see I've done a 15-year, a 30-year fixed, different options for you. But look at the difference in the monthly payments. Today, as I said, you're paying $1,400. With home ownership and the right mortgage option, you could actually make half that amount of a payment. And so as I'm walking through the presentation, I'm showing the borrower points of education. I'm drawing their attention to what you want them to look at and know. You're educating them. You're not just delivering an interest rate. And you can see here, I put together, we're looking at a purchase price range of about $150,000. We have different down payments that I've put together, but you can also see the difference in interest rates on each one of these products. So I'm driving into the difference, trying to make the point that illustrated on the charts on the side, that today you're paying $1,400 in rent, but look at the difference you can make in monthly payments with these different product options. But oh, by the way, also look at the rent versus principal. So today you would have spent $89,000. If you fast forward in 60 months, look at how much you are building in principal, meaning equity, true wealth. So for these particular products, you can make up to almost $30,000 of wealth or equity versus renting. And then you can see here the difference in paid over a different period of time. So that's the power of mortgage coaching. As I said, you can benchmark this in a lot of different ways, whether it's showing worth, whether it's comparing one product as the benchmark versus another, but that's the way that you become a true mortgage coach or mortgage advisor. Comments or questions on the live experience? All right, so you know what? Another thing that happens, the borrower is always doing, what if? What if? Well, in this case, because you are delivering this, it's real time, and it's not only, it's updatable real time. So I am going to jump back into my advice engine, and I'm probably in the wrong one. Which did I do? I've got way too many instances of mortgage coach open here. Okay, so now I am back into the advice engine because somebody asked me about, well, what if I find my dream home and my dream home is a different price, right? So let's just jump in. So I'm in the presentation, and let me go into my advice engine. So here's my current rent, as you can see here. And this is the information that I have entered. And let me just jump through to these things. These are just a wizard that you can fill out. But let's say, oh no, you know what? I found my dream home, and that dream home is $175,000. I can simply go back through these screens. I can call, get pricing right from here, because I might be at the soccer field. I might be in, I might be out on the field in golf or whatever I'm doing, but I'm not at my desk, right? But because you have Mortgage Coach integrated with Optimal Blue, you can actually update pricing right away within the Mortgage Coach, whether you're on a phone or right in this instance of Mortgage Coach itself. So I'm going to pull Optimal Blue pricing. I'm going to update pricing for this product. Let's just say I'm going to do this one. Okay. And now while I've got you on the phone, as I'm talking to you, I can then jump to the end of the presentation and go back into my version of it. And oh, by the way, on your side, you should see that this purchase price has now changed in column 1 to 175,000. And I would certainly want to go in and do that for each one of the products. So as you can see here, now you are responding at the speed of life to a what if question that you know that your borrower is going to get. You don't have to go run back to the office. You don't have to go reprint everything. You don't have to go reopen another instance of something else. It's all very seamless right there within your fingertips, on your phone or on your desktop. A couple of other things about the advice engine itself. So let me go ahead and log in, because this is where you go to work every day when you're putting together presentations. So this is a list of all my recent clients. You can see here. I could also jump into recent views. Remember, we talked about that. You'll see, obviously, this is my demo account, so I have quite a bit of views on some of these. But the other thing is that if that view were to stay 0, that's also a sign, an SOS to you to say, you know what, my borrower has disengaged, or maybe they're talking to another loan originator, or maybe they're just whatever they're doing, but it's your cue to pick up the phone and call them. The automated tab is where any of the integrations that we have. So I mentioned Simple Nexus earlier. You can see here, these are sales boomerang leads that have come in. So with Sales Boomerang, our integration is, instead of you just getting some notice that borrower ABC is responding to some kind of a trigger lead, right? Whether they're pulling credit, or whether there was a divorce or whatever one of the 7 triggers that happened with Sales Boomerang. Now what happens is that Sales Boomerang lead gets sent to Mortgage Coach and an automated presentation gets built. So for example, this is a refi option. So now you have a conversation of value with that borrower when you pick up the phone and start the conversation on, oh, Mr. Borrower, I see you might be looking for a home. Well, that's kind of like you're stalking them, right? But now if you're giving them something of value and you're saying, hey, you know, you might be thinking of refinancing. Let me show you a couple of options. And it just makes for an easier conversation and a value-based conversation. So all of that happens without you really doing anything, right? And then we have strategy templates. Strategy templates are, let's say you're a loan originator and you do a lot of first-time home buyer presentations, and you always put together the same 3 product options, 3% down, 5% down, and then showing a 20% down. You can create that refinance template, and you simply, the next profile that comes along, you copy it to that borrower, you add the borrower specific information, and you can see here the products are already built out for me. And I simply then tweak whatever I need to on this borrower's presentation, and I am being able to send it and getting out to them in like 5 to 7 minutes. I'll pause there to ask what questions you might have.
I think there are a couple in the chat box.
Okay. Chris, if you could monitor the chat box for me, that would be very helpful. Oh, you are doing some of that. Cool. Okay, so yes, the question on, are the basic closing costs going to auto-populate, or are we going to have to manually enter them each time? When we do an enterprise implementation of Mortgage Coach, we work with you at the very beginning of the implementation, and we come in and we build out all of your product templates. So you can see here, we've worked to get all these in. So when you're building out a presentation, from a drop down, you simply select the template that you want. And we do the same with fee templates. So these are all of your third-party fee, I'm sorry, your lender fees. And you can also, we have an integration with Closing Corp Smart Fees or Lodestar, First American Title, to actually make a one-click call out to get third-party fees. So that might be something that Daniela, you and I could talk about at some point. But you don't have to. You can just put those lump sum or estimated fees in here for third parties as well. We come in and set up all your compliance language. As I said, all of these fee templates and product templates. But oh, by the way, we also have the ability that if I start a new client and that client is sitting in Encompass, let me go ahead and start a client here. I can import from Encompass. Well, hold on. I need to get into my integrations account. Hold on just a sec. My account is not set to the integration. So let's go ahead and I'm going to start a new client. Import. And I can select multiple areas from within Encompass that I want to import. So here's my pipeline. And I'm going to let's see, purchase. Let's see if I get a valid, maybe demo. Okay, so this is my pipeline in Encompass. I select the right loan that I'm working on. I'll select this one. And now what's happening, all of the data on this prospect or borrower record that was in Encompass, all of that data has now been pulled into Mortgage Coach. So you can see here, here's the contact information that was coming in from Encompass. You can see information about what they're trying to do. You can see here, this is where you can actually select a debt consolidation strategy. These are the debts that are sitting out in Encompass. I can add these, or I can manually add debt items. And then I can go into other things about the transaction that are stored in Encompass. Here we know that the borrower had entered or what's sitting in Encompass, they make $120,000 a year. And I just simply go through these different screens until such point as I select my products. So this is an example of, I'm able to select one of the templates that I showed you before. So these are all the product templates that I mentioned. Let's do a 30-year no MI, or we could do with MI, because we do have an integration with 3 of the 6 MI companies right now. So you do a simple, just like we did, here's the closing costs. As I said, if you wanted to bring in closing cost detail, these are all the fee templates that we set up, right? So I did a conventional fixed on this one. I simply select that, I apply it to my loan. And again, it's all seamlessly integrated to make this easy for you to put together multiple options. Comments or questions here? And then one final area is our partner area. So
Hey,
the,
Don, sorry,
yeah.
I didn't cut you off. Somebody asked about what 3 MI companies
yes,
are we able
we
to
have
select from?
Arch MI, MGIC, and National MI today. And this year we will round out the remainder of the 3 based upon, I think our next one on deck is Radian, but it's really voice of the customer, who's yelling the loudest for which one. And then here's our partner area. You have the ability, we think of it as an open house flyer, but more importantly, it is really an open house flyer that is more so focused on strategic financing options. So I'm going to select this open house flyer, and you'll see that based upon whatever co-branding that you guys have, whatever options that you have supported, you can actually feature the realtor. And we put in a couple up to 4 pictures of the property that you can add. And then finally, it's more, and most importantly, is that for this property that's listed at $400,000, these are 3 options that you have available to afford this property. So now you have just changed your realtor open house experience, right? You have put this digital presentation that's sitting on the counter of an open house. And if you're sitting with the realtor, that's great. Even if you're not, if the realtor just simply takes the information that they capture on the sign-in sheet, they can then share this open house strategic financing flyer directly with the borrower. And that presentation is going to go with the borrower when they walk out the door. This is an incredible way for your realtors to stay connected to borrowers that are shopping, and for you to stay in contact with borrowers that are shopping. Daniela, I'm going to pause there and see if I might have missed anything that you think is relevant for us to talk about, but turn it back to you.
Don, there is one question actually in the chat. They said, do any of the changes here update in Encompass as well?
Do I need to? No, there really isn't anything that you change in Encompass. All we do is when we start your implementation, your technical team will give us something that's called an API key. And we plug that into Mortgage Coach. They plug our API into Encompass, and that's what connects us.
I think that, Dawn, the question might have been, if you make some changes, will that flood back into Encompass and like change your rate or change your loan amount? Is it a 2-way integration? Sorry.
So today, the answer to that is no. But that is where we're going with Encompass. We started the integration to their new version in December of last year. So this is our first phase of the release. We're now working with their product and pricing engine, and then we're moving on to that bi-directional flow between Mortgage Coach and Encompass. So that will happen.
Chris, I think there's a couple more in there. Can we demonstrate monthly versus single PMI in the savings, Dawn?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to be mindful of our time today, but the best way for you to see that, to see examples of that, is to come out to our YouTube channel, or Chris can send you an example of that option. But wait a minute, I might have one. Let me see if I have client with MI.
And then while you're doing that, this may be an easy question. Can you present different sales prices instead of different products?
Yes, absolutely. You could even go so far as if the borrower received a competitive quote, you could actually put in the competitor's quote and model it against your product pricing options. So here's an example of an upfront MI versus a split MI versus monthly. I just copied to new. And I'll just show you this presentation. Oh. Anywhere where there is a red little asterisk, that's where you put in data. And there's not a lot of data that is required, but let me go directly to this. Oh, I don't have data in this one. I'm so sorry. Shoot.
That's okay, Dawn. If Chris sends it to me along with the participants from today's call, I can just include that link to the YouTube video if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another wonderful asset for you. And this is our YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you're really missing out on just the way to navigate through any changing market. We have originators from every brand that we have. We have 135 brands. We have 8 of the top 10 lenders in the United States that use Mortgage Coach. Here's the #1 loan originator, Shane Benazian, working for Guaranteed Rate, who uses Mortgage Coach. Here's one of the top peak producers at Cross Country. These individuals all use Mortgage Coach, and they share their best practices with how to navigate these changing marketplaces. So I would suggest you go out here. And then if you search, like right up here and search for MI, you'll probably find somebody that has done an MI presentation. And our CEO, Dave Savage, has interviewed them. And you can watch the
Hey, loan
interview.
officers, if I give you 100 leads per month.
Oh, I hate those ads. But typically, if you drop down into show more, you'll find an example of a presentation. So this one is monthly MI versus lender paid versus finance MI. It is a real life story. And it is a real life presentation. All you have to do is click that link and you will be able to review the presentation that this loan originator put together for the borrower. Some of them have videos on them. If it doesn't have a video, if you watch the interview, you'll be able to hear what the story of the family was and why he put together these options and the option that the borrower chose. So this is a huge way for you to up your game and really transform your business.
Thank you. Chris did put the YouTube channel in the chat box. There was a question about advertising a rate on a flyer. That is okay to do as long as we disclose it properly with APR and any other regulations that we would need to do on that. So that is acceptable as long as it's disclosed properly.
Correct. And
and then Dawn, is it fair to say for people who are sending out details of transactions worksheets or LEs, that if they slide this time over to create a presentation in Mortgage Coach, the difference is probably just a few minutes and not significant? Or do you think it either way, it doesn't really matter if they're doing both because it's only a few extra minutes in either direction?
Yeah, it's not a heavy lift. Once we, as I mentioned, when we do an enterprise implementation, we provide a lot of the templates, the fee templates, the automated links to Optimal Blue. It makes it very easy to do multiple scenario options.
And the more they do, the faster they would get at it.
Absolutely. It's like anything in life. The first time you rode a bike, I mean, I know that's a stupid analogy, but it's not. It's really, it's like anything in life. We're not masters day one.
Does anybody else have, I want to be mindful of the time. Does anyone else have any additional questions for Mortgage Coach? Okay, so just so everybody knows, we were going to ask Chris or Dawn to send us the attendee list from today. I'll send out an email asking for some feedback based on this call and also include the link to the YouTube video as well. And then Dawn and Chris, we will circle back.
All right. Thank you, Luann. Thank you for those of you that are commenting. We appreciate the feedback.
Thank you for your time, both of you. Thank you very much. And everyone who joined the call today.
All righty. Bye-bye.